Okay, we're recording.
Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting. Stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Notice of the meeting being recorded. Rearranging going on here. You Joe hear this, so.
There we go.
Notice of the meeting being recorded. This meeting of the school board of trustees, committee of the board of trustees or committee, subject to the open meeting law is being recorded in accordance with sections 2-2-301, 2-3-202, 2-3-203, and 2-3-214 MCA. All members of the board, committee, staff, and public in attendance are advised that the public portions of the meeting will be recorded in both an audio and video format. Cameras and recording devices are placed throughout the meeting room to complete these recordings. Everyone in attendance is reminded to honor basic rules of decorum during the meeting and guidance associated with providing public comment as stated in policy 1420F. By remaining in the meeting, those present consent to being recorded and displayed in the footage that would be posted on the school district's website. Moving on to training.
First of all, I'm pretty impressed that we had 48 respondents to the survey that we posted on Facebook.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Is it closed?
Hmm.
Yeah, it closed like last night.
I think that's more than what we had to the other
That could be.
survey that we did.
Or, well, both. That was during the school year.
Barn and annual months.
I don't know where you put that, but
Yes, you struck it from the agenda. Thank you. Like a light, like struck. Sure, that's something that's like struck. Like this is stupid in the front of my brain's not working. Because I don't have the same word over and over and over. That's not right. It's not right.
Yeah. Well, that's you.
she's the
She's
taggy.
What are we playing?
As soon as I get this, the PowerPoint from
Just, okay, for her. I mean,
she created the PowerPoint. I'm gonna email it to all of you.
yeah, I know, but someone will have to advance through it for her. So we don't have a.
He can go to you, so he's the president.
Now you're kind of making you look like a dictator. Oh, well, I can, here's right. I can move it forward. But it's just matter of.
Did you send the final board packet out?
The preliminary is I apologize. Because yesterday I was gone. I had to go pick up my mom in Great Falls. And so, the only thing that changed was I sent you out the bill voucher.
Yes.
So that's the final. The preliminary packet is the final packet. Plus the bill voucher. Yeah, sorry about that, y'all.
We're getting hooked up. I'm not watching.
Sorry, this is why I hate two-step verifications that they really not get done. That's That's something you can figure out.
Do that all day. No big deal. Right?
Especially if you're. Yeah.
Any of you guys any ibuprofen?
Jana does. Do you need some?
My desk drawer.
I might, oh my God.
We'll just start talking to him. Hey,
Ibuprofen.
What did you do? I saw it.
That's the why I got rid of.
Did you? Sorry, but it was like sensitive hands arm.
Who's this for Fred? What is this?
It's for you, right? You sign those.
I need to get back to this, but I need to-
Thank you.
All right, here we are.
So where did you come, where did you live?
I should have introduced myself. I'll get here, you guys, I'll introduce yourself. We're headquartered out in Helena.
Okay.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Not knowing.
I left, I wanted to leave a little bit early last night, but as is my usual schedule, I got out of Helena about 5:30.
Yeah.
So,
They're gonna be fresh in January.
no,
Nice. I was just in Helena last weekend. Nice.
remarkably, there's no.
Seems like you're always working on it.
Always. Yeah. No, I was very till I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We know, we fully understand.
got to go through that twice yesterday. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty gross.
Are you guys ready to go? So we're,
I don't
We're just
know.
getting this pulled up, but I think you can. pull this.
Start.
Yeah.
oh, are you gonna stay?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
Well, I'm the boss and I'm going.
Right? It's going straight to his head.
First year. Think smart key in the car, but we just. What, I was like, not to take their hay out south to put it, no, you're getting anywhere with it, you know, sometimes.
This is so stupid.
Right, yeah, normally we have the bottoms, yes, you know, yes, and it's a grass about next and yeah, on a normal year it would be 10. But we're not gonna be able to cut anything down there this year, and then we had. We call it up at firm, so it's like up even east of it, it's further towards the line. It's south of Breckers and there, that's just farmland, usually.
Okay.
Yeah. That's about all we got. It's still not the best, but we were able to get some rails off of it, the shit, old island, painted. Yeah,
And believe it or not, out south looks a million times better than out south.
that's what they all said, to do, for clean our sort of like. It is so. I know the steps like. Luther out right now. It's driving like blocks out. Yeah, we've been missing all the rains. We got one with the hail, right? But and they just where alfalfa down and killed all my flowers. Yeah. Garden the first time at this new house. I found it too, because there's lots of sand in it, but it turns out there's still lots of sand in it. So every time it rains, it's like you know that. So my plants, they come so
If you guys want, I brought some lettuce today, so I've got bags of mixed lettuce in the fridge. Uh-huh.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You think James?
Oh. No. Well, I'm just like I'm gonna be that person that y'all hate see coming because my squash is starting to take off. Okay, I'm gonna have gobs. Okay, good. Then I'll just bring it. Okay. All right. Oh dear. Yeah, so there's 4 bags that all fresh picked this morning, so mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. You just tell them this down. You don't.
No, I iron, lots of iron, like spinach. Yeah. Oh, my mother used to cook them and then we would eat them with vinegar.
Yes.
Sprinkle them with vinegar. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It makes your teeth feel funny though. Yeah. I put them in salads more than anything. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the beet top cooked. Yes.
It will still happen. It actually.
Where did you gals get those copies, by the way?
It's called Central, well, Coffee Central, Coffee Central. So I put rotate rate. Things like right, yep. Where the big villa theater is, and things like that, yeah, and the lower from the other towards the screens. Yep. Yes, I think she's open until 3. Stays 3. Kind of varies with their kids and all their feelings, but most of the time she's like 7 to 3 maybe. So. You mean it's not lettuce?
Not just straight lettuce, yes.
Yeah. My daughter's the weird one. Old. Still.
I think I got half of my morning phone call over with.
Well, there you go.
Bill calls about every morning, got that game.
Don't the booty. We were bringing back new memories, or old memories when we were talking and Ken's that was when we moved to South Dakota, she was like. So we trained her. Yeah, I mean, that would be golden shit. That's so you're making fun of me. Where were you? This was the gold.
Who was that? Yeah, this little girl, she was probably 3 and she. Well, she had 2 older brothers and then a younger brother. Younger brother's sitting there rocking in the stool. About this, I mean, he's giving, I'm like, man, that kid's going over. And she said, thinking, and then the other brother said something, and he says, she looks at him and she says, "What are you thinking?" It was funny. Nobody else, I was sitting there chuckling myself, nobody else found that hilarious. I was just laughing. What are you thinking?
We referred to Kinsley as Boston fans, BPs.
That's what I was got
She
shit
was
from this girl.
Yeah, she was. We can remember
Keeping everybody
Joe on the one that just ready. She, her and him would play, and she, Joe. Hey,
No, my boys need beat. I'm gonna beat them in order.
One. I'm just like, it's still one. They have so much. Usually they stare.
is it not coming up or what?
I thought it was.
Can you plug hers in?
It's just that cord beach.
Cause then it could be up and she can just, make sure that she doesn't.
I don't say my cord, I'm so not.
Well, no, it's this, right? Like it's the, if this could plug into her computer, that would be ideal. But I don't even know how you get in here. Know if there's more, I don't know how many.
Notes today or?
Maybe just one that's always
High level.
Okay.
But I can do more detailed.
I can,
I have to do minutes, right?
Yeah.
But I will probably.
I think the minutes can be very solid.
Yes,
Board engaged
but then
in,
the notes are.
okay. I just might miss some of them when I'm putting together, I don't think you were in here. What I'm planning on doing is taking the notes from our discussions today and putting a draft strategic plan together. Or I can take notes too as we discuss.
Yeah, cause I have to be recording, I guess I can take notes at the same time, but I'm supposed to.
Longhand.
Yeah.
Let me do it then, cause I can type them out as we're talking. Yeah. No, I'm good.
I'll take it. Don't try to talk and strategize and take notes at the same time. It's
I can do it.
That's okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll probably take it for these guys too.
This one.
I'm in my 40s. I still don't know if I'm gonna see it.
I wish I was still in Fort.
No doubt, right?
I just birthday a couple of days ago. I was like, well, having birthdays is a good thing, right?
Right? Better than the alternative.
Yeah, the alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last year at this time, I barely had any hair. I had to go through, I had breast cancer and I was diagnosed in September of 23 and didn't realize I was going to have to go through chemo. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Did it come back earlier?
it's about this, it's about the same. I've always had curly hair, but when it first started growing back, it was just white fuzz. And I was like, oh, my
I've come back as a chicken.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I'd rather just stay bald. It started, yeah, and then it was kind of a weird color at first. But then it,
Well, you look really good. So did it come back like, where's your hair was?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm about due for a haircut. I was like, I never thought I'd say that again.
Right? Good for you.
I went to a meeting about a year ago and I had my
Angel
I have
saves
my
the day
ring.
again. Oh, whatever. We all know your tech skills.
Yes. Okay. And then I got out to the car.
So for me, I'm working with somebody else's. Well, it's 9:40. We're ready. No, we could have been. We were pretty slow moving. Yeah.
I appreciate all you taking the time of your day and get through this. That's pretty much for it. And I should have done this when I walked into the room, so you can help introduce yourselves, although I do want to find out how long you've been on the board. And remind me how long you've been in the district, but for those of you that don't know anything about my background, that is what I just told you, right? I'm an attorney by trade. I've been with the Montana School Board Association 25 years, as of last time. And, so I've been representing public schools my entire career. I've been here in this district many times. I always like doing these types of sessions because it's not something that attorneys typically do. You know, we're usually in an adversarial role, so when you get the opportunity to engage in these types of positive discussions about the direction of any district, I much prefer that to the role that I play with the association. So, at any rate, glad to be here, and I think it would be helpful for me just if we start and let me know how long you've been on the board, just so I can get a feel for where people are. Well,
I have only been on for a year after
Okay. Good.
I just finished my second year, starting our third year, right?
Mhm.
It's all run together. Yes, I'm same as Katie. I can probably do more introductions. I have 3 children in the multi school system, or actually 2, and then one that will be. I've got a upcoming 1st grader and an upcoming 4th grader. I'm a graduate of multi schools. Actually, all of us are. Or we used to say Anyways, so the 3 of us were graduates of multi schools. I'm an accountant by trade. I'm a CPA. I work for a local nonprofit. And ranch for fun. And ranch on the side when my husband needs himself for it. Yeah, yeah, my husband's hobby, so we like to say.
Yeah.
Actually, that small was women here.
I know. I think we should go back to Katie and start over. Yeah. Say more.
Fourth grade for Wilson. Yeah, and we ranch. I am. And you're working. Yes. That's what I said. Yeah, it's 400 guys. 2 kids. Here, that's same thing, moved away from. Town. I've got 2 high schoolers. I've got gonna be a sophomore and gonna be a senior this year. I work for a crop insurance software development company in my spare time, and that's my main job to pay for it. I was pay for the hobby, that fun hobby of ranching. do a multitude of other things.
I was gonna say your sourdough business and
You work at a glass shop for your sister.
Yeah. Fun tasks that I also do. That's the majority of it.
Katie, you're also, Katie Brown, you're also president of.
oh yeah.
What kind of?
It's an egg-based nonprofit, and then, I'm actually part of Catalyst. And I also am on the pavilion board, so I'm on 4 boards.
Nice.
Yes.
It's usually way.
It is the way it happens.
And what kind of nonprofit are you associated with?
I'm an egg conservation base.
I always ask that because MTSBA, a lot of people don't know, they always associate us with the state, but we're not, not too, yeah. Yeah, how about you?
Oh, you want them?
Yeah.
No, I got 2 boys in the system.
In the system.
They consider it prison, so. One's a freshman and one is a 6th grader. I sit on the state grazing board, I sit on the local grazing board. I have lots of odd jobs that I do all the time, and I rank. I'm not. Every once in a while we run into each other.
Yeah. So this is you're coming into your 2nd year on the board. Yeah. So he and Katie are together. Oh, okay.
Just call her now.
Yeah.
Together. At the same time.
Yeah. And then Jessica, who she just finished her 3rd year and she was reinstated for yeah. So the board is brand new. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say the average is about 3 years,
Oh, 1 term? You said the average is 1.
about,
I was just.
I would say anywhere between 3 and 5. But, yeah, and that's why I think that the discussions that we're going to have today are pretty important. Just in terms of people understanding the, necessity of really moving their local public school forward. So, and Steve, you started,
I'm just from South Dakota, well, Minnesota up to South Dakota, so I've been here 2 years.
Okay.
Starting.
and Heather.
I am 8 months in.
Started.
I started in November.
Sweet.
Which is long history.
So I worked in I worked for Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos' rocket company, 4 years. 4 years. As a finance analyst and project manager. So a different level.
Were you invited to his wedding?
I was not. No. No. Shocking. Yeah. So, and prior to that, I was an accounting manager. So it's different because I haven't been down in the weeds like I am now, right? Actually pushing the buttons. I was the person saying, push that button.
Yeah.
But it's actually really interesting.
School finance.
No, it's not. And you have to be so many things. It's like I was telling my mom yesterday. So I have to be the attorney. I have to know all the law. I have to be, the finance person. I'm the HR person. I'm the district clerk. So yeah, there's a lot of hats to wear. But I'm happiest when I have a lot of hats to wear. So it's good. Yeah.
Just finished last week. It said for the marketing. July 4th, just to give her a break in front and say.
Yeah.
I'm growing this affinity for the Dakotas.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is beautiful.
Oh, geez. The
Yeah.
first time I went out and visited him over Christmas, I got off the plane and it was -50.
Mhm.
I was like, you can't even breathe.
That's standard February here. in my-
I know, right? I was gonna say. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your eyelashes immediately freeze and yeah.
And so
Your nose hairs.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
I like, when we have a fairly newer board and staff administrative team. And it's not that, I wouldn't say that, you know, people that have been on their boards for years and years, and hopefully you guys will be as well. I just think that sometimes, and we always talk about this as an association too, you know, you have to get a fresh perspective on things because I think far too often, you know, you fall into this, well, that's always the way we've done it, right? And I think that people, of course, nobody likes change, but change is inevitable. And Lance, I don't know if any of you know Lance Nelson, our executive director, you know, we're sort of at the end of our careers, not ready to go, obviously. We always talk about the importance of, you know, making sure that when we leave the association, whenever that is, that we're leaving it in a much better spot than where we found it. I think all of you should be thinking about that too. I also think that as new trustees, sometimes you get caught up into this, you know, are we really making a difference here? Or are we just coming to board meetings and reacting to what we have to? And your board meeting tonight, I'm sure a lot of it is reactionary in nature, right? Your superintendent makes a recommendation to do A, B, or C. You either accept that recommendation or reject it. I think too, though, that boards in this state need to spend more time talking about the things that we're going to talk about today. Because you guys all have a responsibility, and who's up to that? Anybody?
Yep.
Oh, and I just brought this as a resource, and we'll use some of these slides. But I think one of the things that you need to remember as a trustee, and you guys probably already know this, you can only act collectively as a body, right? In other words, none of you as individuals have the ability to do anything outside of a boardroom, unless, of course, the board delegates some function to you, then you do. So your authority lies when you're acting collectively as a body. And I think if you're looking at your role as a trustee, because I've sat on other boards too, where as a volunteer, and if you ever get the feeling like you're not really making a difference, you're just reacting to what is going on right now. I'm not so sure as a volunteer that's, and it wasn't at the time, I'm thinking of one of the boards that I sat on, it wasn't inspiring at all. I kept telling myself and others, I'm not going to waste my time here. If we're going to be talking about counting widgets, I'm here for a higher purpose. I want this organization to move forward, to be forward thinking, to be thinking about the future. And if that's not where we're going, and it wasn't for that board, I just told them, I said, I have a million other things to do. I don't need to waste my time attending meetings for things that aren't important. And so I think your roles as trustees, you should think about it twofold. One, reactionary in nature, where you got to keep the trains running on time, right? You got to approve of hires. You have to approve of expenditures. There's a lot of other things that you do as trustees. But also think about it in terms of a proactive, so really opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Are we doing everything that we can as a board and staff leadership team to move the opportunities in education forward for our youth in this community? And when you think about the impact that our public schools have on the youth in any community, it's either positive, negative, or neutral, right? And you never want it to be negative with anybody because of all of the other options that families have. you have to make the case to this community and the parents and the students that they can't get any other opportunities and a greater education than they can here in this public school. Otherwise, they're going elsewhere. You know, I always use the experience that I had with Helena Public Schools and my son, and quite frankly, at the elementary level, it wasn't very positive. But we spent probably $6,000 in tutoring fees to try and get my son at the time up to speed, because he had what I would say was a teacher that didn't recognize the kids learn differently, and he's one that learns differently. And so he kept falling farther and farther and farther behind. Thank goodness he caught up. But I think you guys also need to be thinking about, are we doing everything that we can to move this, when you said system, to move this public school district forward so that you are meeting the needs and wants and preferences of families and of kids? Because if not, they are going elsewhere. And quite frankly, you can't blame them, right? Everybody wants what's best for their kids. Do you guys have a lot of, I always like to ask this question, do you guys have more students coming in from other districts under our open enrollment statutes, or more students going elsewhere?
I say it's split.
It's actually about a net zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think if you have students that are going elsewhere, you need to be asking the question, why?
I think it's more proximity than anything.
And sometimes in Montana, it's athletics that drives it too, right? And I always tell districts that because people hate the fact that we have open enrollment under HB 203, which was in the 2023 session. I always tell districts, we've always had open enrollment, right? The only time you should ever be afraid of open enrollment is if kids and families are looking to leave, which they've always had that opportunity, right? And you should be finding out why and making adjustments in your strategies to get them to stay. Okay. So when you guys are looking at, I would say the 30,000 foot level of what boards and trustees are supposed to be doing in the state. Now I have a slide in here. You should be thinking about it, and this is what we're doing here today. You should be thinking about it in terms of, you're fine. Setting the direction of the district, providing the resources to move in that direction, and oversight and accountability. Are we moving in the direction that we set? Or are we not? If we're not, why are we not? What are the barriers? And we're going to talk about barriers today too. But the 30,000 foot level of what a board does is set the direction of the district. And in far too many districts, boards say it's not our responsibility, right? The administration should be setting the direction of the district. And what people don't understand is, a few years ago, I always used to tell people that strategic planning is a good idea because it's a good idea, right, to move things forward. It's now required by law. Every district in this state has to have an integrated strategic, they call it in the law, integrated strategic action plan, which you're required to have it. And far too often, I think, boards get lackadaisical, and I'm not suggesting that you guys are, otherwise I wouldn't be here and neither would you. But that's the responsibility of administrators. They run the school on a day-to-day basis. They know better than we do. And yes, there's this distinction between people that are on a school board and your staff. Of course, they're professionals in what they do. And you guys represent, quite frankly, the community. And I always call it a zone of accommodation. I think both perspectives are important. And you need to be thinking about that as we're going through this process today, okay? So when you're thinking about, first of all, how many of you have been part of any strategic planning session in some other walk of life, probably on your nonprofit boards? Yeah. So. I think too, and I'll just go through these slides real quickly. You know, aside from the fact that it's required by law, strategic planning really does help people, I would say, identify benchmarks and set a path for moving forward. Because really good and great organizations don't operate on a day-to-day basis. They have a long-term vision of where they want to be. Think about it just in terms of your own personal life, right? I mean, people have sort of this vision of where they want to be, and even for those of you that moved away and came back, right? Maybe it wasn't always the vision. And that changes over time. We always say that you have to look at your long-term envision future every 5 years because it's going to change. Things are going to change. Things change around you. And this process is a little bit different, I'm guessing, than what some of you might be accustomed to. Usually in strategic planning, what people do is they start out talking about short-term goals. What are we gonna do starting this upcoming school year? How many of you think that that's where we're starting here today? No, it's where we're gonna end up, hopefully. But we're gonna start, I always describe it as starting from the top of Mount Everest or the North Star. We're going to identify where you want to be on a long-term basis, and then we're going to figure out how you get there. And the plan is very different if you do it from the ground up. If we developed a plan and we said, okay, what do we have to accomplish next year? And we start, quote unquote, building the plane now. You're going to build upon what I just said a few minutes ago, and that is it's going to be reactionary in nature. You're going to build it based upon what you're doing right now. If you build it from the sky down, you're building it upon an envisioned future that you want for yourself, and you're trying to figure out how to get there. That's the distinction. So we kind of flip it on its head, okay? And it's a little bit foreign to some people. If you think about that, some of these exercises, admittedly, are not easy. I've been through it a number of times because our association follows this same process that we have since 2002. And I would tell you that we would be a different organization had we not started doing this when we did, okay? So it is intended to identify and implement change where change is necessary, but it's also intended to plant the flag and to keep things and strategies that you're doing that are working well. In other words, we're not going to come in here and change everything. That's not my role. Everything that you guys are doing, I would describe it as planting the flag and stimulating change where change is necessary to move the district forward. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Are we gonna get to a point today where
No.
no, sorry, where we won't be actually talking about what those plans are? I'm sorry, I'm just envisioning when I do strategic planning with my board that we often have like the giant sticky notes on the wall and we're writing on them and we're dropping ideas.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get to a point like that today?
We are, although we're not.
Does the school have giant sticky notes?
Although I was gonna say we're not gonna use sticky notes, but we'll have the discussion. So when we engage in the discussion, I'm gonna be taking notes of the discussions that you have. And as I told you at the beginning, what I typically do is I take all of my notes and I synthesize them into a draft strategic plan that all of you can look at and tweak and make it better and improve it before you say, okay, this is the plan that we're going to initially adopt. It doesn't mean that it's the plan in place for the next 20 years because you can't think of this process like that. If you think that you're developing a document today for the sake of developing a document, then we should all leave because it's a waste of time. You have to think about it in terms of identifying priorities and making sure that every decision that you make that you think back, if it's not right in front of you, you think back to the priorities that we're discussing today and saying, is this action that we're about to take, whether it be a recommendation to hire somebody or adopt a budget or ratify a collective bargaining agreement, is it aligned with our strategic plan, our goals or our strategies? And if it's not aligned, I would tell you, you have no business spending time discussing it. And you always have to remember too, and I'll go over this real quickly, even though it's not part of the PowerPoint. You have to remember that, in particular, for those of you that are part of nonprofits, you know, any director or trustee that is part of either a for-profit or nonprofit organization or corporation, and it applies to trustees on board, you have to comply with certain legal duties. Any of you know what those are? You probably do.
I mean, you can make some assumptions, but I'm not sure where you're going with this.
Make your assumptions and then, well,
Our certain legal duties are, I mean, as a board of trustees, our job is to build policy. Is that where you're getting at? And build policy needs to come from our strategic approach, right? Or our strategic plan.
I would say yes, your job is to govern over this district. And when you say govern, people don't understand what that means. It's not micromanaging, it's not operating this district on a day-to-day basis. That's what your staff do. It's putting processes in place, and policies
Yeah.
is one, so is adopting a budget, so are hiring these two individuals sitting in here, adopting a strategic plan, ratifying a collective bargaining agreement. Those are all processes that you put in place so that people know what they're supposed to be doing. So that falls into really three legal categories: duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience. Any of you ever hear of those? If not, you can take those back to your nonprofit boards and say, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So hear me out for a minute. Duty of care means that, and I'll talk about it in a legal sense and then a practical sense. So duty of care means that when you're acting in your capacity as a trustee, that your conduct, your individual conduct, is measured against what a reasonable, prudent person would do in your shoes. That's what you're measured against, okay? I'm going to tell you a funny story that some of you might laugh and some of you may cry. When I was in law school, we had a constitutional law professor, and we were talking about this very issue, the reasonable person standard, right? And so half the class was female, half the class was male. And of course, he thought he was being a wisecrack and said, you know, when you're talking about the reasonable person standard, let's all recognize that there's no such thing as a reasonable woman. Of course, you can imagine a bunch of female lawyers. And I always like to tell that story because it sticks out. But so your conduct as trustees is measured against what a reasonable, prudent person would do in your shoes. And as at a fundamental level, it means that you come to your board meetings prepared to engage in meaningful dialogue and deliberation, discussion and action. And that you're informed on those issues before you come into this room, which again, at an elementary level, it means that you're reviewing your packet ahead of the meeting. If you have questions, it's not a violation of the open meeting laws. You have the ability to ask any questions. You have the ability to also talk to your fellow trustee, as long as you don't have a quorum. Just make sure that there's no predetermined outcomes before you get in here. I would say best case scenario, if you have questions about anything on the agenda, you either ask the board chair or these two individuals and try to get it answered before you come into the board meeting. That's duty of care. It's coming to your board meetings informed to make important decisions that move this district forward, okay? Anybody hear of the duty of loyalty? I would tell you it's one of the more complicated things to do as a human being. think about it in terms of what judges do when they're judging a case, right? Of course, they bring their own biases and their own perspectives. Everybody does, and anybody that says that they don't, they're lying, right? So duty of loyalty means that when you're sitting in your capacity as a trustee, your undivided loyalty is to the organization that you're serving, okay? This district. You have to put your own personal agenda, ideologies aside to make sure that you're making decisions that are in the best interest of this district. Perfect example is, let's say that one of your spouses works for this district as a teacher. And let's say that you have a collective bargaining agreement that you're considering ratifying. And let's say that the teachers are proposing a 10% increase in pay and an exorbitant amount on health insurance premium. And it's before the board for ratification. And as I'm sitting there as a trustee, I'm thinking, gee, that 10%, that would be really nice to have, as take home pay, right? Or we sure could use, additional. You can't think that way. You would have to be thinking about, is what we're about to do best for this district? Not for me, not my family, not for somebody I know. Same with hiring or any decision that you make. You have to put your own personal interests aside and you have to do what's best for this district. And sometimes they're not the same, right? And then, of course, duty of obedience, which sounds horrible, but what it means is that when you come onto a board, you agree to comply with the mission and the vision of that organization. And some people say, well, that sounds like it's just business as usual, right? When I come on, that's not what it means. What it means is there are certain norms of governing behavior that have been created as part of the culture of this district and this community, right? And if you have a strategic plan, that you review it and know what, again, the district's mission and vision is, knowing full well that it's intended to be a moving document, right? Moving forward. So, in other words, when you come onto a board, and I've seen this with a number of trustees, and I know that that dynamic doesn't occur here, where they have their own special agenda about the way that the world is going to be. That's a violation of duty of loyalty and the duty of obedience. You have to recognize that there's a certain way of doing business with the understanding that we're all looking to make improvements, but we're going to do it the proper way. We're not just going to be an obstructionist. And one of the things that I think I've been trained to do it as a lawyer, and I try not to do it, but I just did it to my boss as we were on the phone coming up here. I tend to, and I think a lot of people do too, I tend not to listen to people. Because we're trained as lawyers, when someone else is talking, we're thinking of our next counterpoint, right? We're not even listening to what they're saying. Either that or I have a horrible habit of just talking over people. And I think on any board, you have to suspend your natural inclination to just tune people out if you don't like what they're saying. But let's face it, people that express contrary opinions at times, that really becomes somewhat of a catalyst for change, right? And so I would just tell you that if you're sitting next to one of your fellow trustees and you're thinking, gee, this person is just off their rocker, I would tell you to suspend your natural inclination and at least listen to what they have to say. And then, of course, all of your perspectives and opinions are important. And that's why in Montana, local elections work. This you might find interesting too. I promise I'm not going to sit here and lecture you all day. Montana is one of the few states where trustees get their authority from our Constitution. So Article 10, Section 8 of the Montana Constitution, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty close, says that it is the goal of the people of, or wait, that's another one. Section 8 says that locally elected trustees have supervision and control, basically of everything that happens in a public school. You delegate an awful lot of authority, but the trustees are ultimately responsible. The board is responsible for what happens in any of your public schools. There's only a handful of states that have that in their constitution. Most states have it in their statute.
So what's the pros and cons of that? In a practical sense and from a legal sense, what does that mean?
The pros to that are, every 2 years, the Montana legislature convenes. And if it was in statute, just like they do every 2 years, they could change that. They could take away every authority that you have. And we oftentimes see bills nearly every year where somebody is trying to denigrate the authority that trustees have. And we always say, we have it in our constitution. You can't change that. And so that's the pro. If it's in a constitution, the people of this state can change it, much harder to do, but the legislature cannot. And we even have court decisions that say that a board of trustees of a K through 12 public school in the state is on par with the board of regents at our university system. That you guys have an awful lot of constitutional authority. And remember, the Board of Public Education also has general supervision of our public schools, and they do that through the accreditation standards, which again are the minimum standards, and we know this from court cases and statute. It's the minimum standards upon which you guys build your public education system. Minimum. And remember, when you're talking about laws and rules and regulations, it's always a floor. You can't fall below, but you most certainly can build up, and that's what it's intended to do. Okay, so pretty important. And then the other constitutional provision that I think is equally important to Article 10, Section 8 is Article 10, Section 1, and that says that it is the goal of the people of this state to develop the full educational potential of each person. And it's not supposed to be, and I don't think you guys think that it is, but a lot of critics and others think that our public school systems are a one-size-fits-all approach to education, right? They treat every kid the same. It's like churning out widgets. And it's really important that we all change that perception in this state. We have a case right now. Do you guys get the Daily Dispatch? You can see there's the case on the charter school bill in there. That, in essence, in all of the cases that we have and proposed legislation that denigrate our public schools, they're all going to have a negative impact on what you guys are trying to do, because they're going to take the resources that you get from the state and they're going to divert them elsewhere. And so if you think that your budgets are tight now, wait until they keep denigrating it. And I think this legislature, they've been doing it since 2013. They're all about personalized learning. They're all about accountability. And I think, the times where they're doling out money, not that they ever have, without any accountability, those times are over. You can even see, with the STARS Act that was implemented. Of course, that's money coming from the state, but it required districts to do and to raise base teacher pay in order to get that. Okay. So, at any rate, if you're ever sitting there wondering what you're supposed to be doing as a trustee in a board, just remember that your role, despite all of the other things that you have going on in your life, this is a really important role for anybody to play. And the impact that you have on, again, the youth in this community and the parents and the way that your community feels about your public schools is so important, because if you ever lose the support of the public, you're going away, right? I mean, think about some of our smaller communities in Montana. I'm always asked this question. Why do we have over 400 school districts in this state? We used to have 3 times that number. And the reason that we have 400 plus school systems in this state is because people value their local public schools, right? I mean, we still have schools with 1 kid in them, ranging from 1 student to Billings, which is about 15,000, and everywhere in between. People like their local public schools, and quite frankly, it's usually the center of the community, right? So don't ever underestimate the value that you guys bring to the table and the importance of your work. Because it means, you guys know it, it's a thankless job at times, right? But you always have to keep, even when you're going through those really difficult decisions, usually a coaching decision or something else, right? You always have to keep in mind that we're going to get through this and we need to get back on task. Get through it and get back on task, and your strategic plan is going to help you do that. Okay. So that's sort of a lot of verbiage. I'm sure you're thrilled that I actually took it. Or brain. Let's see here. Can you go to? Keep going.
Tell me when.
Right there. So if you're looking at sort of the process that we're going to be going through today, and I promise we're going to get there. We're going to start with that circle. That core ideology. Have you guys, and maybe you already have, and you can tell me when we get to that point here in a minute. Have you had discussions about what this district's core purpose is? Now, people always say, well, yes, we have a mission, right? Do you guys have a mission?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. You have to remember too, and I did read that as I was coming out of the restroom. I thought it was very good. You have to remember too that the distinction between a mission and a core purpose is mission is what you're doing. Core purpose is why you're doing it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the core purpose of this district. And again, I would tell you not to lose sight of that constitutional provision that I just read to you a few minutes ago. Okay. And then core values, which are an important piece of any strategic plan. So that circle right there, we're not talking about goals. Remember when I said planting the flag and stimulating change? The identification or the articulation of your core ideology is planting the flag. This is why we exist, and this is what we value. That's the first discussion we're going to have, okay? The second discussion is we're going to look at where you want to be in about 10 years. Now, I've done this for many years where I have forced districts to look at about 20 years out, and quite frankly, I think it's too far. I think people have a hard time getting their head wrapped around, 20 years from now. So I think 10 years is a better horizon if you're looking at where do we want to be in 10 years. 10 years actually goes by really fast in the grand scheme of things, right? So, and that's not looking at, gee, if we just do the same thing we're doing right now, where are we going to be in 10 years? You should be thinking about it, and I'll explain this again when we get there. If we had all of the resources that we needed, both money and human, right? And if we worked harder than we've ever worked before, and maybe you threw a little bit of good luck dust at it, where could this district be in 10 years? Okay. We're going to articulate that and talk about it. And then we're going to skip over that critical factors analysis momentarily. And then we're going to talk about short-term goals and strategies, which is the sort of the third planning horizon there. And that's where you start talking about what are your priorities on a 3 to 5 year basis, and what are our strategies from a 1 to 2 years. So you can see you start out timeless, and we're going to walk it back to today. That's really the plan. And then that critical factors analysis, once you identify and we talk about long-term envision future versus shorter term goals, we're going to talk about the barriers or drivers. In other words, think about that critical factors is a bridge. Okay. We know that things, or we think that things are going to happen in about, again, 5 years that are going to impact our ability to get to that envisioned future. What are they? Or are there drivers? Are there things like going on in our society and in our school district that can help us get to that 10 years? What are those drivers? Okay. So those are the 1 to 4 exercises that I want to get through today. Make sense? Right. Anybody have any questions? Comments?
Let's go.
Liar.
I maybe do have a question back on the duty of loyalty.
Yeah.
And you talked about, being able to set aside your bias. And I think about in a scenario in small communities where most of us have some sort of connection to,
Oh, yeah.
like you said, the idea of a board member with a teacher on staff. So is there any like legal requirements? So if we have a board member who has a spouse as a teacher, are they unable to serve on the finance or the bargaining committee? Or like what, are there any restrictions there on who serves on what committees based on relations within the district staff?
From a legal perspective, no. The only time that you have to worry about
Conflict of interest.
yeah,
Really-
stepping out or complying with the nepotism
Mhm.
is during the hiring process. Okay. Legally. But let's take the scenario where you have a trustee that wants to be on the bargaining committee and their spouse is a member of that. Is it unlawful to do so? No. Should you be thinking about avoiding an appearance of a conflict of interest? Yeah, I think so. So there's a difference between can, which is legal, right?
Right.
And should,
Mhm.
which is, I always compare.
What's- basically.
Yeah, prudent, ethical, yes. Is it, I mean, if you can avoid it, should you? Probably, so that somebody doesn't say, oh, geez, here you are advocating for a 10% increase, right? Knowing full well that the district can't afford it. Of course you're advocating for that, right? Think of the benefit that you're going to get. That's sort of the appearance of impropriety. And again, it's not legal. It's appearance. But it can impact, of course, decisions. I would just tell you to try and stay away with it on a finance committee. I don't think there's anything wrong with a trustee sitting on a finance committee if you have a spouse that works in the district. I think that's probably a little too removed to worry about it. I think what you should be thinking about as individual trustees, can I remain objective on this committee? And can I comply with my duty of loyalty and not even think about my own interests? Those are questions to ask for sure. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? Yeah. Can you turn to the very next slide real quickly? This is just a shorter version of the previous slide, and I think it's more simplified. So if you're really talking about what we're doing today, you're going to identify number one first, who you are and what you value. Second piece of that is going to be articulating long-term envision future, 3 to 5 year goals, and then 1 to 2 year strategies. Okay. Let me ask you this question before we get going. and I know I have a couple of slides in here, but I don't wanna spend a whole bunch of time. If you're looking at being, actually go down 2 slides. If you're looking at being a strategic board, we would tell you to think about, and maybe you're already doing this, flipping your board agendas on their heads, okay? And because what most districts do is they put all of the routine business first. Consent agenda and a whole bunch of other things, right? And then when there's something really important to discuss, they put it last on their agenda. When everybody is worn out from a long day and they want to get the heck out of there, okay? I would tell you that, and I don't think you can do it for every meeting, but if you have something that's really important, like the discussion we're having today, on one of your board agendas, think about putting it first, right after public comment, right? You're fresh, you know, can engage in a much better dialogue than sitting here for 2 or 3 hours and then, gee, we got to spend another 2 or 3 hours talking about this big ticket item. Think about flipping it and putting it first and then having all of the routine stuff that you have to do anyhow at the end of your meeting. Okay. And it's not that routine business is not important. You have to do it, but hit the big important stuff first. That's what strategic boards should do. Okay. And again, I'm not here to tell you what to do. Unless, of course, you ask me.
But what you are saying is there's not a specific formula that we have to follow. Or like legally, like
I know.
I know there's.
This would be like as kind of necessary, right? Like if there was a big action item, we would put that first
Mhm.
instead of putting it in the middle or last. Like be
Wherever-
more strategic about where things are on the agenda.
Things that need more discussion.
Right. Like, I mean, like tonight we have some policy stuff, right? That really should be first on the agenda.
Where
Is what it's towards the middle. Yeah.
It's not.
So I'm not being very strategic about it.
It's not intent.
No,
Just put them next.
but it's being more intentional.
With the idea to be.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, the other things it's a rainy day.
Well, yeah. Pretty easy. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Like your administrative and committee reports would be at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to so many board meetings. I think that boards sometimes, and again, it's up to you guys to decide. You just want to make sure, I think that everybody and that you guys are ingrained in doing it every day. These guys have a limited amount of time to devote to this district. And you want to make sure that the time that they're spending here, that they find meaningful and effective. And that's why I think, you know, in most board meetings, I mean, when I'm on the agenda, sometimes I'm sitting there for 2 hours and I will tell you that it irritates it just does. I'm like, I drove clear out here. Now I got to sit through 4,000 reports and routine business and, you know,
And then you get to me. Yeah.
the big stuff should be first.
Yeah.
And even with reports, I think it's important to also look at, you know, if you're providing written reports, do people actually need to go over those?
Amen.
Right? I think a better approach, and again, it's up to you guys, is report, please do. That the trustees have read through those and see if anybody has any questions.
We
Now,
have
if
to make
there's-
sure we're getting them though, not the kind of move forward.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because we do get them.
They're terrible about it. I know.
Yeah, so, but yeah, it's another issue is the public always assumes.
Yeah, let's get it more, to see it. Maybe
Yes.
it's a little better. We had,
You know, if we could just put it up there.
right, if we can, or if we get reports in advance that they could be. The website and post the,
Which they should.
which is probably almost nothing.
Yeah.
But even if we can put them up here and say, you've gotten our report and question,
We could do that.
but we have to get.
Which we have been. I've been scrolling through.
Yes,
It will save you time if you take that approach.
yeah.
Now, if there's something phenomenal though, that the district is doing, and you want,
The good,
yes,
yes.
and you feel it necessary to let the board know what you're doing and the public, then I would give people the floor to express the great things or the good things that people are doing in this district. You don't want to just gloss over those either, because far too often I think people in your positions are so humble that you don't like to talk about the great things that are happening. And I think you have to, because people are telling their own story, and it may or may not be truth or fiction, right? They create their own narrative of the way that the world is, and you guys want to make sure that if you're doing really great things, if you have a fantastic program that kids are loving, that everybody knows about it. So just food for thought. And again, I'm not gonna tell you how to operate in districts, although if you ask my opinion, I'll tell you.
We're asking.
What's your phone number?
I'll have you on speed dial.
For helping the district out with superintendent's search. New chair, right? And I was trying to help her through the meeting, but I kept talking over her and like I was running.
Well, I hope you're not sticking around tonight. This will be my second meeting,
Yes.
so don't stick around.
Let's get ready in since it's about 10:30 here. Let's go down to, now there's a couple of slides in between here that sort of gives you a history on our constitution. I'm not gonna spend time on it, I want to get right into stuff. If you go down to keep going. Keep going. Right there. So the first thing we're gonna talk about. Get up, get down. The first thing we're gonna talk about, again, as I said a few minutes ago, is that what is the district. And I like what you guys have on those plates. I would tell you that I think they're probably more of a slogan than anything, right?
It is, yeah.
But it obviously is meaningful. People, it resonates with people. I think it's awesome. But I think in terms of articulating what this district's core purpose is, I'd like to just have a discussion about what you guys think core purpose is. So remember too, core purpose is any organization. This district's it's your fundamental reason for being. It's why you exist. Okay. And the other thing, I don't want you guys to get into wordsmithing today. I want to keep this at the conceptual level because I'll take the concepts back and I'll do the wordsmithing. Okay, and then you guys can tear it apart if you want to. Although I dare you to, just kidding. You will. So, in all of the discussions today, we're going to be talking conceptually, okay? Not, this is exactly the way we're going to word this thing. And I think if we all have that understanding, it'll go faster and we'll get through this better. So if you're looking at the core purpose of multi-public schools, and again, you're looking at this slide, remember, district's fundamental reason for being, an effective purpose reflects the importance people attach to your work, taps into their idealistic motivations, and gets to a deeper reason for your existence. If I'm new to this community, which I am, and I know nothing about your public school, but I'm looking at your strategic plan and I want to know what you're about. What would you want people to see in that core purpose? Like the headliners that have to be there.
So
I'm
like,
gonna
even,
take notes while you guys.
so
talk.
even if it's not like, or how we would perceive it if we wanted it to be like, or what it is now.
A core purpose, I should have said this because that's a great question. So remember, we're not talking goals. We're not yet talking about what you want to be or where you want to be.
Just what it is now.
What it is now, what it was likely 25 years ago, and what it will likely be 25 years from now. So core purpose typically does not change. It already exists. You're just articulating it during this segment. So why is it that multi-public schools exist? Why did it exist 25 years ago? Why does it exist now? And why will it exist 25 years from now?
Educating rural families.
To provide education as per Montana law.
Say it, Kyle.
When we first started talking about this, my wife and I have a way we're trying to raise our children, and that was the first thing that popped in my mind, and I'm gonna say it, and say it just how we say it, and it's not politically correct. We're trying to not raise assholes, so I would say we would like to have kids that come into our community.
With good value.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's social education too, on top of just your typical core subject matters.
I think you've already identified the core purpose, so just put it.
Can I put that on the wall? 'Cause I'd love to.
You do.
It's a great slogan. Don't be an asshole.
Just walk into the school.
Seems like a press release to me.
Is that right?
Go ahead.
No assholes here.
I guess offering our students foundational skills.
I like that because we are towards working harder to probably to look smart skills also.
Like your traits.
I was thinking about like creating opportunities for well-rounded individuals, right? I mean, because it's not just education. It's all the other things.
And boards do it. If you look at Article 10, Section 1 again, it talks about developing the full educational potential of each person.
Right.
And some boards say that is our job. And other boards will say it's not just about, yes, the educational component is primary, but it is about the other things that make good human beings.
But isn't educational potential
The big picture.
the big picture? It's not just about ABC 1, 2, 3. To me, it's the educational potential of each individual child, whether that's leadership skills, hands-on, like, yeah.
I think where that gets great, and I agree with you, but I think where that gets great from a public perspective is then why isn't it the school's job to teach morals to my students? You know what I mean? And we're taking away all the responsibility from parents, which gets us in a lot of trouble. Right? Because then we're getting pointed at as you, the school isn't doing A, B, and C. And then the school says, whoa, we aren't the parents, we are your educators, right? So it can be such a gray area because though I agree, I think our school should provide that because there are students who don't have those in their home lives. It's also a potential for a lot of problems.
But we can provide that without providing it with good teachers, good administration.
Yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm just
By
saying that
example, you know what I mean?
that's often where we get the fingers pointed at us too. And it's like, well, the school isn't the parent, you know, we don't have, you know, we only have your students for 8 hours a day, 4 days a week for 9 months.
Agree, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's just a
And
double-edged sword.
unfortunately, though, to your point, to Heather's point, I think often being and reaching your full education potential also involves many other things that helps you succeed in being an education.
It's not all kids are
Your
great.
morals, your mental health, your around adults, you know, your teachers, your administrators, that all help form that person and your true educational
And
potential.
if we can help provide those for those kids,
Right.
right, you know.
But to Angel's point too, we can't cross that line too much in certain sense, because we don't wanna be potty training, for lack of a better term, kindergartners as they come in, there are certain things that need to be taught out for. And they need to be able to, we still expect that.
But education wise, I think we can do a,
Yes.
you know, we get their full potential, you know, I mean, I think we can push that.
Create opportunities for
Right.
them to,
For each, not just for the box.
yeah,
learners.
yeah. Well, it's, I mean, it's like Kyle and I were talking the other day, you know, I know kids who wouldn't have graduated from high school if there hadn't have been shop and
Mhm.
ag mechanics and, you know, stuff like that offered in school, right? And it's not even that they didn't go on and be very successful in college or and decide to go to college maybe later and have very successful careers. It's just that it wasn't, high school wasn't their thing, you know. Hmm.
They have one.
But they had these opportunities, yes. Yeah.
We're very good about having mentors and teachers that are in place that care at a different level of those kids, to this point, that maybe fall between and aren't necessarily the book learners, but the shop learners or the outside. Many people, like you said, that graduated here that if I had probably been going somewhere else, they probably wouldn't have graduated and that are very successful.
I went to 2 years and tennis or sole provider, not even a sole provider, main provider, you know, and then, you know what I mean? Like, and that's just, there is more to it
Mhm.
than just a book.
They also have high enough standards that when we do go to colleges, most branding that is for it. When we go to know that it's will survive, do very well.
They'll be successful in
Yeah.
college if that's the career path they choose.
Exactly.
Mhm. I guess that's what I was driving at, is that like we're creating this, like there's all of these different
Very broad.
potential
Like
there's all
full
these opportunities that are available for the kids to take advantage of. And I've watched you guys over the last 8 months do that, right? Like weigh those decisions, weigh the decisions you make against that of, you know, how many kids are we going to touch with this? What opportunity are we going to create by doing X,
I
right?
think being in our rural area, we are, like. But there's a reason other schools co-op with us,
Mhm.
because we do have opportunity.
We want to be the same.
Yes. And we are, I mean, that's why we have something that go up with this, because we do have more opportunity.
And my,
When did you say cooperative targets? Okay. What about educational programs?
We don't, there isn't anything. Everyone, every other rural school takes care of it all there.
The reason that I bring that up is because, you know, the quote unquote consolidation issue comes up every
Mhm.
legislative session. And even in this past legislative session, we expanded, or Montana legislature expanded the use of multi-district agreements, which
Yeah.
is a perfect opportunity. Let's say that you guys have some fantastic education program that maybe a neighboring district, they don't have the resources, right? So you can collaborate. Or maybe there's something that another district in this area has that you guys don't, because you're focused on X. The multi-district agreements are a great way to provide additional opportunities for your students without actually having the program yourself. So.
What about sharing teachers? Have you ever like?
Well, that's what it is.
But
Yeah,
that's what
That's,
you're talking
that's
about,
part of
music programs.
what it could be, yes,
Sharing of
Yeah.
staff, sharing of resources, anything.
yeah.
we have discussed it,
Mm-hmm.
but through different times, with the person on Brady trying to, yeah. Because of the lack of certain positions. Like,
Yeah.
bars and, right, and having some in both, the problem is that we can lose geographically speaking, you know, being able to share those features, unless we were to do them remote, you know. Or whatever, the time of sharing something, to your point, of them driving.
The
whatever.
transporting,
Yeah,
the
and
transportation, yeah.
rural school and then coming here and what we would need, we're big enough compared to those smaller schools. Sharing those would be nearly impossible, kind of what we found.
Yeah.
for Vermont.
And even transporting students, because that's the other option, right? Is the teacher doesn't go, the students
Yeah.
go. There's the logistics of that.
Or you figure out, you said to do most.
Yeah,
When we hear about, or yeah, I think if we needed it bad and wanted it bad enough, we.
I don't think we can do that remotely.
yeah.
I don't think that's gonna work.
Well, and I'm thinking more about,
It could work if
then
you had
coming-
some
yeah,
Aid.
aids.
yeah.
Anything else on core purpose that you want to throw out there concept wise?
I was just looking into our policies a little bit because there are some that indicate specifically like goals. So policy 2000 has a whole bullet list of what the district's educational program goals are. And then there's some other goals sprinkled in with like board goals, like specifically just the board, administration goals. And then there's like a policy 1000 too, also has mission statement, philosophy, objectives. I was just looking at what previous boards have decided.
So depending upon what comes out of this process, you likely are going to have to modify some of those policies.
That's why I was looking at them.
Yeah.
What still applies and what doesn't today.
Nothing else on core purpose? It's okay if you say no, I think and so again, what I do conceptually is look at all of the comments and I try and synthesize it into not a slogan, but something simplified that will resonate. So if somebody asks you, you know, what is your core purpose? You guys can say. And if it doesn't have meaning to you, it's like any of us at MTSBA. If we were asked what the core purpose of MTSBA is, if any of our staff didn't know, they probably should go get their bags and pack their stuff. it's so ingrained in what we do every day, and ours is to develop the full potential of each child, i.e. that constitutional provision through school board leadership. So, very simple, resonates, we all sort of know, all of your work is aligned with that, so. Thank you very much, Trevor.
Can you take 5 minutes? I gotta get to the bathroom.
Yeah, of course, you're the,
Same.
you're the chair, whatever you wanna do.
You can continue.
Staying, as I'm taking it, going.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was some kids are supposed to.
Okay.